Beloved soul, stop for a moment. Something in the unseen has been trying to reach you all day, drawing you toward this quiet place where the thin veil around your life begins to tremble with meaning. There is a soft, radiant presence gathering near you, almost like a warmth rising beneath your ribs, urging you to pause before the world rushes in. Your breath slows, the atmosphere around you thickens with a gentle spiritual electricity, and you can feel the pulse of destiny beginning to whisper through the still air, as if heaven has been waiting for this exact opening in your morning. You woke up carrying a weight you could not name, a subtle pressure pressing against the depths of your spirit, and yet even in that heaviness you sensed a holy pull guiding your steps. Something ancient has been moving around you, aligning itself with the first moments of your day, trying to usher you into a breakthrough season that has been forming quietly in the unseen. The inner horizon within you has stretched through the night, widening into a space where spiritual awakening stirs like a quiet ember catching wind. You may not realize it yet, but your divine purpose has been echoing through the chambers of your spirit long before you opened your eyes. As you breathe now, there is a sacred alignment forming around your life, a gentle orchestration calling you toward the clarity you have prayed for in silence. You have been wrestling with restlessness, feeling the stir of something approaching, sensing an elevation you cannot explain. Even the unseen winds brushing through your thoughts feel different today, as if they carry the resonance of purpose meant to guide you toward abundance, toward emotional healing, toward the wealth mindset required for the path being shaped under your feet. There is a quiet truth rising for your ears alone, asking you to stay present, asking you to notice the shift that has already begun. Before anything else fills your morning, heaven needs your attention. There is a spiritual horizon widening before you, inviting you to step into a new rhythm, a new clarity, a new alignment that will not look like anything you've known. If you feel your heartbeat responding, if your spirit feels touched by a subtle awakening breath, it is because this moment was designed with precision. Nothing about this timing is random. This is the hour where inner light begins to expand and unseen doors begin to unlock beneath the surface of your life. And if you feel called to remain connected to these moments of divine confirmation, pause here and subscribe, like and share, not out of habit, but so the sacred guidance meant for you can continue to arrive right on time without being lost in the noise of your day. You woke with a quiet trembling in your chest, the kind that does not come from fear, but from a spiritual horizon shifting inside you. All night, the unseen brushed against your mind, stirring dreams that felt more like messages than imagination. Your thoughts have been heavier lately, not with despair, but with a sense of something approaching, something forming just beyond your understanding. There is a deep chamber within you that has started to open, and even if you tried to ignore it, the inner world rearranging itself has already begun guiding your steps. You may have noticed how silence has felt louder these days, how the stillness around you seems charged with meaning. That is not coincidence. It is the soft movement of divine orchestration unfolding, turning your restlessness into direction. The atmosphere around your mornings carries a different weight now, a subtle pull drawing you toward the resonance of purpose, even before your feet touch the ground. The thin veil of the unseen presses closer, as if heaven is trying to help you recognize the spiritual emergence rising beneath your daily routine. There have been moments when you thought you were simply tired, moments when the fatigue felt deeper than the body. But what you have been experiencing is the breaking of old layers, the release of emotional fragments you carried for far too long. There is an inner thunder forming beneath your calm exterior, not violent but awakening, pushing you toward a personal transformation that cannot be delayed anymore. Even the way you breathe feels different, touched by truth, marked by the gentle force of a spiritual awakening that refuses to be silenced. You have been sensing people differently, rooms differently, conversations differently. Your sensitivity has sharpened, not as weakness, but as a sign that your destiny alignment is pulling you into a season where nothing superficial can survive. When the heart begins to rise into higher clarity, the world around it begins to lose its old shape. You might feel isolated, but what you are truly experiencing is sacred refinement flowing through your decisions, your relationships, your future. The unseen winds around your life are not pushing you away from others. They are guiding you toward the space where abundance can finally anchor itself. Sometimes the nights have felt longer than they should. You have stared at ceilings, sat in the dark, listened to the quiet hum of your own breath. During those hours, the divine warmth entering your chest was not loneliness. It was preparation. It was elevation. It was heaven readying you to move into a flow where financial stability is not just survival, but expression, where the wealth mindset needed for your calling begins to mature inside you like a sacred seed. What feels uncomfortable now is simply the soil of your life being turned over so growth can no longer be delayed. There is a blooming awareness rising through your mornings. Even if you cannot articulate it, you can feel it. Your spirit stands closer to truth than it ever has. The quiet, spiritual electricity in the air is not your imagination. It is alignment. It is timing. It is the subtle, divine pressure that arrives only when heaven decides the moment has come for a chosen one to rise. And as this current flows through your life, let yourself whisper a declaration in the comments below. Something sharp, simple, and alive, like a spark breaking the dark. Tell your own spirit, I rise now. And still, the awakening continues to deepen, moving through your heartbeat like a gentle pulse of destiny, urging you to listen as the atmosphere around you shifts once more, guiding you toward the next layer of what has been waiting for you. The stirring you feel has been reshaping the atmosphere around your life long before you tried to make sense of it. You wake with echoes from dreams that refuse to fade, fragments of insight that seem to hover just beneath your thoughts. There is a spiritual gravity shifting inside you, tugging at the parts of your identity that no longer fit who you are becoming. Even your silence has changed. It carries weight now, a depth that feels like the earth quietly moving beneath your feet. You're not losing balance, you are being positioned. What you call confusion is actually clarity descending in ways the mind cannot translate yet. The inner horizon stretching within you is widening into new territory, and with every breath you take, this unseen expansion grows stronger. You may feel unfinished, like your emotions have been pulled apart and scattered. But this tearing is not destruction. It is the sacred pulse awakening in the places that once lived under pressure. Every ache you have carried, every question you whispered into the darkness is being gathered and shaped into guidance. There have been days recently when the air around you felt heavier than usual, not dark, but meaningful, like walking through a room where something holy once stood. That sensation is a signal. The divine warmth gathering beneath your ribs has been urging you to release the strategies of survival you once clung to, because you are stepping into a breakthrough season where survival is no longer your assignment. Your emotional healing is not happening in flashes. It is happening in slow waves, rearranging your spirit until your strength no longer comes from pushing, but from alignment. Your nights have spoken to you more than people have. You have felt a quiet observation inside your own spirit, watching your own thoughts, noticing what drains you and what lifts you. This heightened awareness is not exhaustion. It is your inner light expanding past old boundaries. The whisper flowing through still air around you is calling you to recognize the new pattern unfolding within you. The one shaped by purpose rather than pressure, by vision rather than fear. There is a softness forming in your chest, not weakness, but readiness, the kind that arrives when heaven begins to guide your breath. You have been sensing truths you cannot name yet. You walk into a space and feel its emotional temperature before anyone speaks. You hear a sentence and know the intention behind it. You sit alone and feel currents rising beneath your awareness, pushing you toward choices that honor your elevation. This sensitivity is not a burden. It is a sign you are stepping into a life built on destiny alignment, a life that pulls you toward abundance without demanding that you betray your own peace. And even now, as these currents move through you, the unseen doors around your path continue to shift, waiting for the moment your spirit steps forward without hesitation, ready to receive what has been forming in silence all along. The shifts moving through you have not been random. They have been arriving like waves, each one loosening what once held your spirit in confinement. You have felt the pressure around your chest, not painful, but persistent, almost like a quiet knocking from the inside. That sensation is the awakening breath, pushing through the layers you outgrew without realizing it. Your old patterns have started dissolving, not through effort, but through revelation. You are seeing yourself more clearly, sensing that the life you once tolerated no longer carries the spiritual resonance you need in this hour. Even the way you sit with your own thoughts has changed. There is an alertness in you now, a heightened listening, as if something sacred has been trying to form a language inside you. You wake in the middle of the night and feel an atmosphere alive with meaning, a soft density that makes you breathe slower. That is not anxiety, it is the deep recognition echoing within, guiding you toward truths your mind has not fully named yet. Heaven is nudging you into a place where emotional healing is not a concept, but a presence weaving itself through your memory, your habits, your heartbeat. You have noticed how conversations drain you when they carry no depth, how noise feels louder than usual, how your spirit withdraws when your environment no longer matches your frequency. This is not moodiness. This is refinement. Your sensitivity has sharpened because the unseen is teaching you how to distinguish the voices that anchor your destiny from the voices that distract you from it. There is a reason you feel an inner world rearranging itself every time you try to return to old cycles. You are being lifted into a higher spiritual altitude where elevation becomes the natural rhythm of your becoming. There have been moments when you walked into a room and felt something shift in your chest, as if invisible currents wrapped around your awareness. These moments are not accidents. They are signs that your life is brushing against new layers of divine purpose. You might feel exhausted, but it is the kind of tiredness that comes right before renewal. Your spirit has been running ahead of your body, preparing a space where abundance can settle and where your wealth mindset begins to take root in your decisions, your confidence, your identity. What once frightened you is losing its power, not because the situation changed, but because you did. You have been letting go without announcing it. You have been shedding without explaining it. The subtle, divine pressure guiding you is creating room for what you prayed for, even on nights when you doubted anyone heard you. There is a spiritual refinement flowing through your thoughts, making you crave honesty, depth, authenticity. You're starting to see through illusions you used to accept. You're recognizing intentions without needing proof. You're hearing the quiet pulse of destiny in moments when everything around you feels still. And if something in your spirit is stirring right now, rising like a soft inner thunder, let that movement be your confirmation. Take a breath and, as if speaking to the unseen that has been guiding you, leave a declaration below that carries fire through your own chest. I claim my breakthrough. Even now, the atmosphere continues to shift around you, drawing you toward the next unfolding layer of what your spirit has been waiting to receive, inviting you deeper into the awakening that has only just begun. There is a quiet truth unfolding inside you, a truth that has been forming beneath every restless night, every sudden moment of stillness, every breath that felt heavier than your body could explain. You have been sensing a shift, not with your mind, but with the deeper currents of your spirit, currents that have been carrying you toward a life no longer shaped by old wounds or old versions of yourself. Something in you has begun to awaken with a steadiness that feels unfamiliar. as if an inner horizon has been turning from shadow to clarity without needing your permission. You have felt it when you tried to force yourself back into old rhythms and your spirit resisted. You have felt it when familiar spaces suddenly felt too small, when conversations you once tolerated now feel hollow, when habits that numbed you no longer hold the same power. These are signs of an emergence rising from within, an emergence that refuses to let you shrink back into the person you had to be in order to survive. You are not returning to who you were. You are being pulled toward who you were always meant to become. There have been moments when your breath felt touched by truth, moments when a subtle warmth gathered beneath your ribs and you could not explain why. That warmth is recognition. It is the soft current of the unseen guiding you toward the life that aligns with your destiny rather than your fear. You may feel disoriented, but this disorientation is sacred. It is the unraveling of everything that once demanded your loyalty but never earned your peace. You have been feeling the atmosphere around you change, not with drama, but with quiet insistence. Rooms feel different. People feel different. Even your own thoughts carry an echo that was not there before. You are beginning to see the hidden threads of your life, noticing how every moment of isolation has been preparing you for deeper clarity, how every disappointment has stripped away illusions that could have blocked your elevation. The world has not grown heavier, your spirit has grown sharper. There is a reason your tolerance for chaos has collapsed. There is a reason your boundaries have strengthened without negotiation. There is a reason your intuition speaks louder now, cutting through confusion with a precision you never trusted before. You're being moved into alignment with a higher rhythm, one shaped by spiritual awakening, personal transformation, and the steady pull of destiny guiding you toward abundance that matches the integrity of your heart. And even when exhaustion tries to settle in your bones, even when doubt whispers through the edges of your mind, something deeper rises to meet it, a steady inner light expanding through the places where you once hid your power. This light is not temporary. It is the evidence that the unseen has been working inside you, removing what cannot follow you into the next rise of your journey. Your days have started carrying a quiet message, a sense that something is watching over your steps with intention. You may feel like you are standing between who you were and who you are becoming, but this in-between is holy. It is the preparation ground where old identities dissolve and new vision begins to take shape in your spirit. This is where destiny alignment forms. This is where elevation begins. This is where abundance starts weaving itself through the fabric of your future. And as you continue to breathe into this unfolding, let your spirit step forward with a declaration that meets the power gathering around your life. I choose destiny. The pull only grows stronger from here, drawing you deeper into the awakening that has been calling your name long before you realized you were ready to receive it. There is a movement inside you that has been building in silence, a movement that does not announce itself with noise, but with a steady expansion you can feel beneath your breathing. You have noticed it in the way your thoughts lean toward truth even when doubt tries to pull you back. You have noticed it in the way your body pauses before decisions, as if something wiser within you is guiding your next step. This is not hesitation. This is alignment forming in places you once overlooked. You have been waking with a sense that your life is shifting in ways you cannot yet explain. The air feels different around you, almost like it carries a subtle pressure that invites you to stand taller within your own spirit. You may not have words for it, but there is an ancient knowing rising through your awareness, a knowing that tells you you are nearing a threshold that cannot be crossed with old habits or old fears. The unseen has been shaping you quietly, refining your walk, preparing your heart for a path where clarity becomes your new atmosphere. You have felt it when you closed your eyes at night and sensed something stirring behind your thoughts, a gentle movement that felt like guidance more than imagination. You have felt it in moments of stillness, when your breath softened without reason, when the warmth in your chest gathered with a persistence that made you stop and listen. That warmth is not random. It is the inner world rearranging itself so that your spirit can step into realms where your voice carries purpose, where your decisions carry weight, where your presence carries peace instead of tension. There have been days when the world around you felt strangely distant, almost muted, as if life moves slower for you than for everyone else. That slowing is intentional. The divine allows stillness to fall over chosen ones when a deeper truth is approaching, when the atmosphere needs to shift so your spirit can recognize what is arriving. This quiet recalibration you are feeling is the early stage of a spiritual awakening that has been forming beneath every unanswered prayer, every unspoken longing, every silent moment where you wondered if heaven heard you at all. You have sensed the subtle changes in your emotions. You react differently now, not because you have hardened, but because you have softened in the right places. The emotional healing working through you has stripped away the need to perform strength. You no longer cling to what drains you, because your heart has learned to crave what aligns with your elevation. This is not detachment. This is growth. This is the breaking of the old shell so the identity beneath it can breathe. There is a new steadiness rising in your steps. You may still feel uncertain, but uncertainty cannot shake the deeper pulse guiding you. You are beginning to trust the direction of your own spirit, recognizing that the unseen currents around your life have been leading you toward a landscape designed for your personal transformation. Even your hunger has changed. You are drawn toward what nourishes you, what expands you, what lifts you into abundance, not only in resources, but in awareness. And as this inner shift deepens, you stand at the edge of something you have waited for longer than you realize, something forming even now in the quiet places of your soul, drawing you toward the next revelation awaiting your spirit. There is a depth opening inside you that you have only begun to notice, a depth that has been growing beneath every moment you felt stretched beyond what your emotions could carry. You have been walking through days that felt strangely heavy, yet not with sorrow. It is the kind of weight that appears when your spirit is expanding faster than your surroundings, when the unseen begins to press against the edges of your life and call you into a higher state of awareness. Something in you has been awakening with a quiet insistence, urging you to step away from noise and listen to the deeper rhythm rising beneath your thoughts. You have felt this shift when familiar comforts no longer settled your heart, when old coping mechanisms suddenly lost their glow, when your spirit turned away from distractions that once held your attention easily. This is not boredom. This is spiritual refinement. You are shedding layers you outgrew long before you admitted they no longer fit. Your inner world has been rearranging itself to make space for the truth you prayed for, the truth that has been waiting for you to become strong enough to carry it. There were mornings recently when you woke with your heartbeat echoing louder than usual, not racing, but present, a quiet signal that something meaningful was forming beneath your ribs. That steady pulse is not random. It is heaven preparing your spirit to recognize guidance without needing constant reassurance. It is the soft orchestration of the unseen teaching you to distinguish between the pull of destiny and the noise of distraction. Even the simple act of breathing feels different because each breath carries a subtle clarity, a reminder that you are stepping into a season where the atmosphere around your life holds more truth than your past ever did. You have walked through moments where you felt detached from people without understanding why. Not isolated, not abandoned, but separated. This separation is sacred. It is the quiet lifting of your spirit out of environments that can no longer sustain your elevation. The divine does not remove you to punish you. It removes you to protect the parts of you that are awakening. You are being guided away from the voices that dilute your purpose and toward spaces where your divine purpose can finally speak without being silenced. There is a refinement happening in your perception. You see intentions faster now. You feel misalignment before it reveals itself. You recognize emotional patterns in others with a sensitivity that feels almost supernatural. This is because your spirit is being trained for destiny alignment. You are being shaped into someone who can sense opportunity before it appears, someone who can feel danger before it arrives, someone who can discern truth even in silence. You have wondered why your desires have shifted so dramatically, why the goals you once chased with urgency now feel too small, too shallow, too disconnected from who you are becoming. This is the first sign of personal transformation taking root. When your destiny grows, your appetite changes. When your awareness expands, your priorities rearrange themselves. When your inner light rises, your path cannot remain the same. Even now, there is a sacred pull shaping your steps. You may not know where it is leading, but you can feel that it is good. You can feel that it carries abundance, not just in resources, but in meaning. You can feel that it is guiding you toward emotional healing that frees every place where your heart once trembled. You can feel that it is lifting you into a breakthrough season where the life you are called to live begins aligning itself with the person you are becoming. And as that unseen current continues its slow, powerful work within you, let your spirit whisper something that strengthens its own rise, a simple flame spoken into the open. Amen. The unfolding around you is not slowing. It is gathering force, drawing you toward the next wave of revelation, rising just beyond the edges of your understanding. There is a subtle shifting in the way your spirit responds to the world now, as if something within you has stepped forward while the rest of your life is still catching up. You have felt this in the quiet hours, when your thoughts stretch farther than your circumstances, when your breath moves slower because your inner world is learning a new rhythm. This unfolding is not dramatic, yet its depth is unmistakable. It is the unseen guiding you into a place where your strength no longer comes from endurance, but from clarity rising through the center of your being. You have noticed how certain memories surface with new meaning, not to wound you, but to free you. They return like soft echoes, asking you to release what you once clung to out of survival. This is how emotional healing begins, not in sudden relief, but in gentle waves that move through the places where you once hid your disappointment. You are being pulled out of the shadows that shaped your older identity and into a light that reveals what was always inside you but never fully expressed. The spiritual horizon around your life is widening, and every breath carries the imprint of that widening. There were moments recently when you paused without knowing why, moments when time seemed to slow around you, as if the unseen currents wanted you to feel the shift rather than analyze it. That pause was not hesitation, it was heaven placing its hand on the pace of your life, urging you to sense what was opening beneath the surface. When the divine prepares a chosen one for elevation, the first sign is always stillness. Stillness is the language of transition, the quiet marker that the breakthrough season you prayed for is beginning to take form. You have also begun to sense what no longer aligns with the direction of your spirit. When conversations drain you without reason, when ambitions that once fueled you now feel empty, when relationships you tried to maintain suddenly feel too heavy to carry, it is because the inner refinement shaping you is releasing anything that contradicts your destiny alignment. Nothing is being taken from you. Everything is being cleared for you. There is a difference, and your spirit knows it. Sometimes the pressure you feel in your chest is not anxiety, but calling. Sometimes the fatigue you feel in your bones is not weakness, but transition. Sometimes the restlessness stirring inside you is not confusion, but preparation. The atmosphere around your life has been shifting in quiet increments, each one designed to loosen your attachment to what cannot follow you into abundance. You are being carved into someone who can hold more clarity, more stability, more truth, more purpose, without losing your peace. There is a new sensitivity rising in you, a sensitivity that feels like the spiritual equivalent of a new sense awakening. You can feel intentions before they are spoken. You can sense opportunities before they appear. You can perceive truth even when someone tries to hide it. This is not imagination. This is elevation. When the unseen prepares you for divine purpose, it sharpens your perception so you can walk with assurance even when the path ahead looks unfamiliar. And in the middle of all this shifting, you may feel a tension between who you were and who you are becoming. That tension is sacred. It means you are outgrowing the version of yourself shaped by past struggles. You are stepping into a self shaped by calling, shaped by alignment, shaped by the quiet strength of someone who has survived enough storms to know that transformation never arrives politely. It arrives like a gentle tremor beneath your ribs, like an awareness blooming through your spirit, like a warmth settling into the deepest corners of your identity. If your spirit feels this movement right now, if something within you is rising with a recognition you cannot fully explain, let that recognition speak with a simple declaration in the comments. 767. And even as these words settle into your chest, the shift within you continues, drawing you deeper into the unfolding that has been waiting for the exact moment your heart could finally recognize its own awakening. There is a quiet expansion unfolding inside you, one that does not come with bright signs or loud announcements, but with a steady widening of awareness that feels almost like stepping into a room you did not know existed within your own spirit. You have felt this new space opening when you wake with thoughts that seem older than your years, when your intuition rises before your logic has time to respond, when your emotions move with a depth that surprises even you. This is the maturing of your inner landscape, the slow forming of a strength that does not need to shout to prove it is real. You may have noticed recently that certain moments linger in your memory longer than they should, not because they were dramatic, but because they carried a quiet imprint that your spirit refused to overlook. A look someone gave you, a sentence that brushed your awareness, a silence that felt heavier than words. These moments are not coincidences. They are markers. They are the subtle touch points of the unseen shaping your next steps, nudging your heart into a deeper honesty with itself. Every time you paused without knowing why, it was your spirit responding to these markers, sensing the shift arriving before your mind could interpret it. There have been days when you felt an unexplainable pull to distance yourself from familiar patterns, not out of rejection, but out of recognition. Something within you knew that you could not keep feeding the parts of your life that kept you small. This instinct is a sign of transformation taking root, the kind that rises like a new current beneath your decisions. You are beginning to choose paths that reflect your worth rather than your wounds, and even if that feels uncomfortable, it is a powerful sign that your inner compass has awakened. Your dreams have been different too. They no longer feel random. They feel layered, almost like whispers woven into images, urging you to remember what you once forgot about yourself. These dreams are not meant to confuse you. They are meant to open doors in your subconscious that have been closed for far too long. Your spirit is traveling ahead of you while you sleep, clearing space for abundance to enter when you wake. The body rests, but the spirit prepares, and your mornings carry the residue of that preparation. You may have noticed a change in the quality of your loneliness. It no longer feels like emptiness. It feels like refinement. You sit with yourself differently now. You think differently. You observe differently. You are no longer searching for validation in the places that once defined you. Something deeper has taken that role. Something steadier, something truer than the opinions you once carried like anchors. This quiet shift in your identity is not random. It is alignment shaping you from within, inviting you to rise into a life where your decisions reflect your future rather than your past. There is also a new clarity in the way you perceive relationships. You sense intentions beneath the surface. You feel the difference between presence and proximity. You recognize when someone's energy aligns with the person you are becoming rather than the person you were. This clarity may feel sharp at times, but it is necessary. It is part of the spiritual intelligence you are being given, a wisdom meant to protect your purpose as you move toward the season designed for you. And even now, as the atmosphere around your life continues to shift in ways you cannot fully articulate, you can feel a steady rhythm rising from within, calling you into a greater measure of who you are. It is a rhythm that invites you forward without rushing you, a rhythm that carries both invitation and assurance, drawing you deeper into the unfolding that has only just begun to reveal itself. There is a quiet awakening moving through the deepest layers of your spirit, the kind that cannot be forced, the kind that rises like a gentle tide until suddenly you realize you're standing in a new depth of yourself. You have felt this every time your breath slowed without reason, every time your thoughts softened into something truer than your fears, every time an invisible pressure rested on your shoulders, not to burden you, but to guide you. Something within you has been preparing for this shift long before your mind understood what was happening. You can sense it when you walk into a room and feel the atmosphere before you see the faces. You can sense it when a conversation brushes against your spirit incorrectly and your heart pulls away before you can explain why. You can sense it when your intuition rises first, speaking with a quiet certainty that feels older than your name. This is not sensitivity. This is spiritual maturity. You are learning to hear what the unseen has been speaking all along. Your spirit has been shedding illusions softly, almost imperceptibly, like old leaves releasing themselves one by one. The things that once excited you now feel distant. The cycles you once tolerated now feel suffocating. The spaces where you once hid your truth now feel unbearably small. This is not discomfort. This is elevation rearranging your internal compass, pulling you toward a life where you can no longer pretend to be less than what you are becoming. There have been moments lately when you felt as if time itself paused around you, holding you in a silence so thick it felt almost sacred. In those moments, your spirit was listening to the subtle resonance of purpose weaving through your awareness, listening to the guidance you once dismissed as imagination, listening to the divine alignment forming beneath every decision you have made in faith, even the ones that hurt. Heaven speaks in pauses more often than in thunder, and your pauses have been filled with meaning. You have been experiencing a strange heaviness in your emotions, not dark, but deep. It is the weight of your spirit expanding beyond its old borders. You are feeling things more intensely because your heart is no longer numb. You are perceiving more clearly because your inner light refuses to dim itself for environments that cannot hold truth. You are changing, not in pieces, but entirely, and even if you cannot explain why, you can feel that every part of this transformation is necessary. There is a new steadiness forming beneath your uncertainties. Even when you question yourself, something in you does not collapse the way it once did. You recover faster. You see through confusion quicker. You recognize when fear is lying, and you feel the quiet conviction rising beneath it, telling you to keep moving. This steadiness is the early sign of abundance entering your life, not just in the material sense, but in the expansion of your identity, your clarity, your confidence, your peace. You may feel alone, but what you are truly experiencing is spiritual repositioning. The divine is pulling you away from noise so your spirit can recalibrate. You're being placed where your purpose can breathe. You are being guided into a space where your voice carries weight, where your presence shifts atmospheres, where your journey becomes a beacon for someone who will one day search for the light you now carry. And even now, as you sit in this unfolding, you can feel a quiet invitation rising through the center of your being, calling you into the next layer of your awakening, asking you to trust the current pulling you forward into clarity you have never known before. There is a stirring in you that has grown stronger with every passing day, a subtle but undeniable current pulling your attention inward as if something within your chest has begun to awaken from a long sleep. You feel it when your thoughts drift toward possibilities you once dismissed, when a quiet courage rises in moments where you used to shrink, when your own spirit surprises you with a strength you did not know you carried. This is not imagination. This is emergence. The unseen has been lifting you into a higher inner atmosphere where your awareness sharpens and your purpose becomes harder to ignore. You may have noticed how your emotions no longer move the way they once did. What used to overwhelm you now feels strangely clear. What used to silence you now feels too small to contain the truth rising in your voice. You're not becoming harder. You are becoming deeper. Every feeling passing through you now carries information, pointing you toward the areas of your life that no longer resonate with your becoming. This emotional intelligence is not learned. It is awakening itself through you, teaching you to recognize what nourishes you and what drains the life out of your spirit. There have been moments recently when a sudden stillness wrapped itself around you, a stillness so thick it felt as if the air itself was watching you breathe. Those moments were not empty. They were transitional. They were thresholds where something holy hovered near, waiting for your heart to make space for the next layer forming beneath your awareness. In those pauses, your spirit was being recalibrated, tuned into the frequency of the path you are now being called to walk. What felt like interruption was actually alignment. Your restlessness has meaning too. It is the sign that your inner world is expanding faster than the life you have been living. The discomfort is not punishment, it is direction. It is the gentle pressure of destiny urging you to stop trying to fit into spaces that can no longer hold your truth. Even the dreams you have been having, those vivid glimpses, those strange impressions, those scenes that feel like memory and prophecy mixed together, are the early echoes of guidance rising through the deep places of your spirit. And the way you sense people has shifted as well. You pick up on subtle tones, unspoken intentions, emotional textures that others overlook. This is not oversensitivity. This is spiritual refinement. You are being prepared to navigate your next season with discernment, not guesswork. The divine is sharpening your awareness so you can walk with clarity in environments where your purpose will matter. You're learning to trust your spirit more than explanations, your intuition more than patterns, your inner knowing more than the noise around you. There is also a reason your solitude feels different now. What once felt like emptiness now feels like preparation. You may not have chosen the distance, but your spirit needed it. In this quiet, the inner architecture of your identity is being rebuilt. The rooms of your mind are being cleared for truth. The chambers of your heart are being widened for abundance. The patterns you once clung to are dissolving so your future can find enough space to unfold. And if something inside you is rising as you read this, if a warm pressure gathers beneath your ribs, as if truth itself is leaning toward you, let that rising speak. Declare something fierce and undeniable into the space that is opening around you. I'm ready. Even now, the shift continues its slow, deliberate work within you, drawing you toward the next layer that has been waiting with patience, waiting with precision, waiting for the exact moment your spirit could finally hear it. There is a quiet unveiling happening within you, the kind that does not arrive with sudden revelation, but with a steady deepening that pulls your awareness into places you once avoided. You have felt it each time your breath grew heavier without sadness, each time your heart tightened, not from fear, but from recognition, each time your thoughts slowed as if something sacred stood just beyond your understanding. This inner shift is not a passing feeling. It is the slow formation of truth rising through layers you did not know were ready to break open. You can sense it when you wake before dawn and feel a presence lingering in the stillness, not haunting, not heavy, but purposeful. Your body remains still, yet your spirit leans forward as if listening for instructions shaped in silence. That sensation is the first signal of spiritual elevation. It means your inner world is responding to the unseen guidance arranging itself around your path. You may not yet have the words, but your spirit already recognizes the direction. You have found yourself questioning old desires, wondering why achievements that once felt essential now seem strangely distant. This is because the architecture of your identity is being rebuilt from the inside out. You're no longer driven by the need to prove your worth. You're being drawn instead toward alignment, toward the quiet certainty of a destiny that does not require you to chase validation to feel whole. What once energized you now drains you because you are being rewired for a higher purpose. There were moments recently when you felt an unexpected clarity, not loud or dramatic, but crisp, like a subtle shift in the air. In those moments, thoughts you struggled with for years suddenly made sense. Patterns you overlooked became obvious. People you once tolerated now reveal themselves with unmistakable transparency. This clarity is not coincidence. It is divine preparation. You are being taught to see without needing to be shown, to recognize without needing confirmation, to understand without needing explanation. And then there is the ache you carry, not the painful, kind, but the deep stretching within your chest that feels like your spirit is outgrowing the confines of your old self. That ache is the mark of transformation. It means your heart is shedding the emotional dust of the past, clearing space for abundance that will not settle where grief still lingers. You're learning the difference between what comforts you temporarily and what nourishes you permanently. This is emotional healing, taking shape in real time. You may have noticed, too, the change in your sensitivity to environments. Spaces that once felt harmless now leave you uneasy. People who once felt familiar now feel distant. Conversations that once entertained you now feel hollow. This is because your spirit is tuning itself to a different frequency, one aligned with truth, clarity, and purpose. You're being guided away from distractions so your focus can sharpen, and with it, your capacity to step into the next dimension of your calling. Your intuition has been speaking louder as well, not in dramatic bursts, but in consistent, subtle impressions that follow you like footprints in fresh sand. You think of someone and feel the truth behind their intentions. You walk into a room and feel the atmosphere before anyone speaks. You consider an opportunity, and your spirit knows the answer before you think it through. This is the divine refining your discernment, so your next steps do not rely on logic alone. And even now, as these layers of awareness rise through you, there is a quiet momentum building under your life, a sense that something is nearing, something your soul has been preparing for long before your mind tried to understand it. Let your spirit meet that momentum with a declaration that anchors your rise. I choose destiny. There is a deeper current moving through you now, one that does not rush, one that does not demand, yet it carries a strength that rearranges everything in its path. You feel it when your body grows still without being asked, when your breathing softens as if something unseen is guiding your rhythm, when your thoughts widen into a space that feels older than your memories. This is the slow rise of inner wisdom, the kind that awakens only when your spirit reaches a level of readiness you cannot force or pretend. You may have felt a subtle pull lately, a sense that something is waiting for you beyond the edges of your routine. Even your daily moments feel different, almost as if each one holds a message beneath the surface. That heightened awareness is not coincidence. It is the unseen adjusting your perception so you can recognize the opportunities that once passed by unnoticed. Your spirit is being trained to see what your eyes have not yet learned to interpret, to sense alignment before it unfolds into your physical life. There were days when you felt strangely detached, watching your own life from a quiet distance. It did not feel like numbness. It felt like observation. That distance was meant to show you what needed to be released without the fog of emotional attachment. You have started to notice the difference between what truly supports your elevation and what quietly dims your inner light. This realization is one of the earliest signs that your entire being is preparing for personal transformation. And recently, you have been feeling a new kind of restlessness, not anxious or frantic, but purposeful. It comes as a gentle tension beneath your ribs, a whisper urging you to move, to shift, to step out of the patterns that keep you small. That tension is not here to unsettle you. It is here to awaken you. It is the pulse of destiny pushing from within, nudging you toward a future that requires your full presence, your full awareness, your full courage. You have even begun to notice the spiritual electricity that hums through certain moments, the kind that makes you pause mid-thought because something in the atmosphere feels thick with meaning. This is the veil thinning around your life, the sign that the divine is drawing nearer, aligning circumstances with precision. You might not yet understand the timing, but your spirit can feel its accuracy. Nothing about this season is accidental. Your relationships are shifting as well. Some connections feel lighter, others heavier. Some voices resonate with clarity, others echo with misalignment. This is part of your refinement. As your purpose expands, your circle adjusts. Those who cannot rise with you begin to fade, not out of conflict, but out of spiritual physics. Two energies moving in different directions can no longer walk the same path. You're being moved into alignment with people who speak the language of your becoming rather than the language of your past. Your desires are changing too. You crave stability that reflects your truth, not stability that traps you. You crave peace that strengthens you, not peace that silences you. You crave abundance that matches your integrity, not abundance that demands the cost of your soul. This shift in longing is a sign that your spirit has entered a new phase of maturity, one where the wealth mindset is no longer about accumulation, but about alignment with your divine purpose. And even now, as these undercurrents shape you quietly, you can feel a soft rising in your chest, as if your spirit is standing taller within you, preparing for what comes next. If that rising is stirring right now, let it speak. Let it become a living word inside you. Leave a declaration that mirrors the strength forming in your inner world. I claim my breakthrough. There is a quiet radiance gathering inside you now, the kind that arrives only when your spirit begins to recognize its own expansion. It settles beneath your ribs like a soft glow, asking nothing, proving everything. You feel it in the way your thoughts no longer cling to what once wounded you. You feel it in the way your emotions move with more honesty than fear. You feel it in the way your breath deepens as if preparing your body for a life that demands more presence than hesitation. This is the moment when the unseen begins to take shape within you. You have walked through enough inner storms to know when something sacred is approaching. The atmosphere around your life has shifted into a tone you cannot name, yet your heart knows exactly what it means. There is a subtle divine pressure resting on your spirit, not to weigh you down, but to lift you into clarity that cannot be undone. You are being positioned with precision. Every quiet moment, every sudden insight, every strange calm rising in the middle of uncertainty is marking the arrival of something you prayed for long before you believed it was possible. And now, your inner world stands on the edge of a threshold. Not ending, not beginning, but opening. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel the invitation woven into the silence around you. It calls you to trust what is forming, to release what is fading, to rise into the abundance that has been waiting for your spirit to stand in its true strength. Nothing about this moment is accidental. You are being aligned with the path meant for you. As you draw nearer to what your soul has been preparing to receive, let your heart meet this unfolding with a final declaration that anchors your readiness. I rise now. There is a deeper unfolding happening around your life now, one that stretches far beyond the shifts you have already survived. What you are stepping into is not simply change. It is revelation. It is the slow emergence of who you were, created to be rising from the quiet center of your spirit. You can feel it in the way your awareness sharpens, in the way your breath carries a new steadiness, in the way your heart leans toward a future it cannot yet see but somehow already trusts. This is the realm where identity is reshaped, where calling becomes clearer, where the divine purpose stitched into your being begins to vibrate with unmistakable force. You have walked through seasons that demanded your silence, seasons that pressed you into corners of yourself you did not want to face, seasons that broke you open just enough for truth to seep through the cracks. Those moments did not weaken you. They refined you. They carved space in your spirit for the personal transformation that is now rising like a tide beneath your ribs. What once felt like loss is becoming alignment. What once felt like confusion is becoming direction. What once felt like delay is becoming preparation for a breakthrough season designed with intentional care. You may have noticed that your desires are shifting again, not toward comfort, but toward meaning. You are beginning to crave the kind of elevation that does not flatter the ego, but strengthens the soul. A deeper hunger has taken root in you, a hunger for stability that reflects wisdom rather than fear. Your pursuit of financial stability is no longer fueled by anxiety, but by the recognition that abundance is an extension of stewardship, clarity, and destiny alignment. This shift in motivation is evidence that the unseen has been working inside you, guiding your inner world into coherence with the purpose written over your life. There is a new intelligence rising through your decisions. You can feel it when you walk away from opportunities that glitter but do not align. You can sense it when your spirit tightens around what looks good but lacks truth. You are learning to choose with your identity rather than your impulses, and that is the mark of someone stepping into a calling they can no longer ignore. This maturity did not appear overnight. It has been shaped through every moment you stood alone, every moment you questioned your worth, every moment the divine whispered through the stillness and told you to keep walking. Something in you has been awakening with such precision that you can no longer pretend you do not feel it. The inner horizon of your spirit is widening, revealing layers of potential you once believed were out of reach. You feel the quiet pressure of destiny urging you to expand. Not violently, not urgently, but steadily, like dawn stretching across a dark sky. This is the sacred moment when the unseen begins to breathe through your decisions, turning your life into fertile ground for abundance and transformation. And as this widening continues, as your spirit grows more fluent in the language of its own becoming, let your declaration rise once more as a way of anchoring your awareness in what is unfolding. I claim my breakthrough. There is a stirring in the foundation of your being now, a quiet but undeniable shift that feels as if the deepest parts of you are being rewired for a life you once thought belonged to someone else. This is not imagination. This is the invisible architecture of your destiny taking form, piece by piece, breath by breath. You are being drawn into a level of clarity that reveals how much potential has been resting silently in your spirit, waiting for the exact moment you would be ready to carry it. The unseen has watched every step, every silence, every tear you tried to hide, shaping your resilience into a vessel capable of holding greater abundance than you ever allowed yourself to envision. You may feel as though your identity is stretching in directions you did not anticipate. One moment, you are confronting the weight of old wounds. The next, you are sensing a future so alive it feels like it is calling you by name. This tension is sacred. It is the sign that your inner world is merging with a higher awareness, where your divine purpose no longer whispers. It resonates. Every shift you feel now is pulling you toward alignment with the version of yourself that was designed to rise, to build, to transform, to elevate beyond the patterns that once held you captive. There is a new sharpness in your intuition. You can feel it in the decisions you no longer hesitate to make, in the boundaries you enforce without apology, in the dreams that return to you with renewed clarity. These are not ambitions born from ego. They are assignments. They are the markings of someone stepping fully into their breakthrough season. And with every step you take toward this expansion, you begin to understand that your transformation is not an escape from your past, but the fulfillment of what the past prepared you to carry. You have been sensing opportunities before they appear. You feel the subtle pull toward spaces that nourish your growth, toward people who mirror your elevation, toward paths that align with the spiritual awakening unfolding inside you. This is the maturity of your spirit, recognizing that abundance is not simply something you pursue, it is something you allow yourself to embody. You are stepping into a new frequency where you no longer chase what is meant for you. You attract it by existing in the truth of who you are becoming. Even your relationship with difficulty has changed. Where you once saw obstacles, you now sense refinement. Where you once felt resistance, you now recognize reshaping. Challenges no longer define you, they reveal you. They unveil the strength that was silently accumulating in your spirit, preparing you for a season where your stability, financial, emotional, spiritual, will reflect the depth of your transformation. You are not rising because life became easier. You are rising because you became aligned, and as this realization settles deeper into your chest, warming the places where old doubt once lived, let your spirit speak again with a clarity that matches the path unfolding before you. I choose destiny. There is a profound recalibration moving through your spirit now, a shift so deep it feels as though something ancient within you has begun to awaken, stretching itself after years of sleeping beneath the surface. You can sense it in the way your thoughts have become heavier with meaning, in the way your emotions carry a depth they never held before, in the way your breath feels anchored as if it is drawing strength from a place you once feared to enter. This is the beginning of a fuller emergence, where every hidden layer of your identity rises to meet the purpose that has been calling you from the unseen. You may feel as though your inner world is expanding faster than your outer life can keep up. This is not imbalance. This is alignment, preparing to break through the confines of circumstance. You are stepping into a realm where your awareness heightens, where your perception becomes more exact, where your capacity for truth widens beyond the limits of your past. The divine is enlarging the territory of your spirit so you can hold the vision you once believed was too big for you. What felt impossible before now feels inevitable because your identity is catching up to the greatness assigned to you. There is a new fire forming in your decisions. You no longer move from fear. You move from understanding. You no longer cling to what once comforted you. You reach for what challenges you to grow. This is the difference between surviving and transforming. Your life is shifting into a dimension where personal transformation becomes a continuous unfolding, not a single moment. Each choice you make now carries weight, shaping the future you are stepping into with deliberate intention. You are learning to trust your spirit as the truest compass you have ever known. And there is something else emerging. Your hunger for elevation has become undeniable. You crave more because the version of you that once settled is dissolving. You crave clarity because confusion no longer feels familiar. You crave abundance because you have learned that scarcity does not match the calling placed on your life. You crave alignment because misalignment now feels like sandpaper against your soul. This hunger is not greed. It is recognition. It is your spirit remembering what it was designed to carry. Your nights have grown quieter, but your inner dialogue has grown louder, filled with impressions, insights, and sudden realizations that feel as though they originate from a place beyond your mind. This is the spiritual awakening deepening inside you, the unseen teaching you how to see without relying on what is visible. You are being trained in the language of intuition, in the sensitivity required to navigate the next realm of your purpose. There is a subtle wisdom rising through your thoughts, guiding you toward decisions that support not just your present comfort, but your long-term destiny alignment. And even now, something inside you is leaning forward, your breath, your awareness, your spirit, toward the path unfolding just ahead. Let that forward movement anchor itself in a declaration that widens the space around your becoming. I'm ready. There is a deeper unveiling taking shape inside you now, one that feels less like discovery and more like remembrance. It moves through you with a quiet certainty, reminding the hidden parts of your spirit that they were never lost, only waiting for the moment you would be strong enough to hold their truth. You feel this unveiling when your heart suddenly steadies in situations that once made it tremble. You feel it when your thoughts settle into clarity instead of spiraling into doubt. You feel it when your own presence comforts you more than the validation you used to chase. This is the maturity of your becoming, rising from within. You may have noticed how your sense of identity has shifted again, not in confusion, but in refinement. You are seeing yourself with new eyes, eyes that no longer measure your worth by your past, eyes that no longer treat your wounds as limits, eyes that recognize how much strength has been forged in the quiet hours no one witnessed. You are beginning to understand that every limitation you once believed about yourself is dissolving under the weight of the truth awakening inside you. The divine purpose seeded into your life is beginning to surface, breaking through the soil of every season that tried to bury it. There is a new calm forming in the center of your being. Not passivity, not resignation. Calm as authority. Calm as recognition. Calm as the presence of someone who has survived the breaking that purified their spirit. This calm is the early language of abundance settling into your life. Abundance that touches your decisions, your boundaries, your sense of direction. You're learning how to move with intention rather than impulse, how to build with clarity rather than desperation, how to rise without needing to look back for permission. And as this new clarity roots itself inside you, your spirit begins to stretch toward a horizon wider than you once believed you were allowed to touch. You can feel the shape of your future emerging, not in details, but in certainty. A certainty that tells you transformation is no longer something you wait for. It is something you step into. A certainty that tells you your elevation is not a distant possibility, but a present unfolding. A certainty that tells you you are ready to carry more than your past allowed you to expect. So let your spirit breathe into this widening. Let your heart rise into this unfolding, and let this final declaration seal the depth of what has awakened within you. Amen. Beloved, there is a holy stillness gathering around you now, the kind that settles over a life only when heaven is preparing to speak in a way the spirit cannot ignore. You can feel it in the air, thick with quiet intention, as if the unseen has stepped closer to breathe truth into the places where doubt once lived. Your chest softens, your breath deepens. Something sacred hovers around you, waiting for your spirit to open just wide enough to receive what has been forming in silence. This is the moment where the divine reaches inward, not to correct you, but to restore you. You have carried weight that was never meant to stay on your shoulders. You have held yourself together in seasons where no one knew how close you were to breaking. But the atmosphere around you now feels different because heaven is touching the parts of you that have gone too long without rest. The quiet presence rising through your chest is not imagination. It is invitation. It is the soft pull of grace preparing to lift what your strength could not. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost sense a warmth gathering just behind your breath, steady and gentle, as though a hand of light is cupping your spirit, whispering that you no longer have to carry your battles alone. This warmth is not fleeting. It is not fragile. It is the first sign that the divine has begun to pour healing into the cracks you stopped acknowledging. Where your heart once tightened, there is now room. Where your voice once trembled, there is now grounding. Where your hope once flickered, there is now a steady glow rising. And as this presence settles deeper, let the words forming in your spirit rise with it, soft but certain, shaped from the truth awakening inside you. I rise now. Beloved, breathe slowly. There is a sacred nearness moving around you now, wrapping itself through the quiet spaces of your spirit, turning the air warm with meaning. You may not see it, but you can feel it. The atmosphere thickens with a soft spiritual gravity, as though heaven has stepped into the room and placed its hand gently over your heart. Your breath deepens. Your chest softens. Something holy settles over your life with a tenderness that asks nothing and heals everything. There is a light forming beneath your ribs, not sharp, not sudden, but steady, the kind that rises when the divine begins to gather every broken piece of your journey and weave them into strength. You can sense it in the way your heartbeat shifts, in the way your thoughts quiet, in the way your spirit listens even before your mind understands. This is the beginning of restoration, the quiet descent of clarity that touches a chosen one only when the time has been perfected in the unseen. If you let yourself be still for a moment, you will feel a warmth moving through the places where exhaustion once lived. It travels softly, like a whisper gliding across still air, loosening the fears you gripped too tightly, dissolving the heaviness that settled around your identity, lifting the quiet ache you carried alone. You are not being repaired, you are being renewed, and the presence rising around you now carries everything you need for the next breath, the next step, the next becoming. As this holy current wraps around your spirit, let a declaration rise from the center of your chest, simple, steady, and true. Amen. There is a deeper movement entering your spirit now, slow and steady like a quiet river, pushing open the walls of places that have been closed for far too long. You feel it in the way your breath shifts, in the way your ribs expand as if making room for something larger than your own strength. This presence does not rush. It does not demand. It settles around you with a certainty that tells your heart it is finally safe to release what it has carried in silence. The unseen begins to sweep through the corridors of your inner world, touching memories that once held you captive, softening the sharpness of wounds you never had the chance to voice. You may sense a warmth blooming behind your sternum, almost like a gentle sunrise rising through the center of your being. This is not imagination. It is the soft descent of divine compassion flowing into the places where your confidence cracked, where your trust faltered, where your hope grew thin. The atmosphere around your life holds a softness now, a tender heaviness that signals the beginning of emotional healing that does not ask you to be strong, only to be open. The divine does its best work in the spaces where you finally stop trying to fix yourself and allow light to touch what the world never understood. There is a rustling in the quiet of your thoughts, a shift so subtle it feels like a breath brushing through the deep chamber of truth inside you. This is where the divine purpose seeded into your life begins to stir with a renewed pulse. What once felt distant now feels familiar. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. The unseen has been aligning every thread of your story with precision, preparing your spirit for an elevation that cannot be rushed, cannot be delayed, cannot be undone. You are being lifted into a dimension where clarity becomes your compass and peace becomes your authority. If you listen closely, you will notice how the tension you once held in your neck, your shoulders, your chest begins to unravel. This uncoiling is not random. It is heaven loosening the weight of shame you carried without knowing, the burden of expectations placed on you before you even learned to speak your truth. With every breath, the divine moves deeper, sweeping through the inner horizon of your identity, washing old residues from your spirit, releasing hidden fears from your bones. You are being prepared for abundance that will not collapse under pressure, for stability that does not waver with circumstances, for a breakthrough season shaped by alignment rather than struggle. And as this movement continues, it lifts your awareness into a higher atmosphere, one where you can sense the unseen winds guiding your heart toward what is meant for you. The air grows warmer, your thoughts grow softer, your spirit grows more alert, as if something luminous is approaching from a distance. You can feel the edges of your destiny beginning to glow, calling you forward with a pull that feels both gentle and unshakable. You're being escorted into the version of yourself that carries authority with humility, purpose with tenderness, strength with grace. If the warmth rising through your body feels real, let it rise. If the stillness settling over your mind feels sacred, let it settle. If the current brushing through your spirit feels like guidance, let it guide. This is the divine meeting you, where your strength ends and your becoming begins, weaving restoration into your breath, into your thoughts, into the hidden folds of your heart. There is a quiet deepening taking hold of your spirit now, a depth that feels as though it has been waiting beneath the surface of your life for years, waiting for the exact moment when your heart would finally be steady enough to receive what it could not carry before. You can sense it in the way the atmosphere around you thickens with a subtle gravity, in the way your breath feels guided rather than forced, in the way an invisible calm drapes itself over your shoulders like a mantle woven from something holy. This is not ordinary peace. This is the entrance of a presence that knows every chapter of your journey and still chooses to move toward you with unbroken tenderness. You may feel something settling behind your ribs, an expanding warmth, soft but insistent, as if a gentle hand is pressing light into places you once hid from yourself. That warmth is not here to expose your wounds, it is here to soothe them, to loosen the memories that pinned your spirit to old versions of yourself, to dissolve the emotional debris you carried from rooms where you had to be stronger than your heart was ready to be. This is the beginning of true restoration, the kind that does not decorate your brokenness but rebuilds you from foundations the world never touched. There is a subtle pulse rising through your chest now, almost like a quiet signal echoing from the unseen. It tells you that every step you have walked through darkness was not wasted. Every silence, every ache, every tear you swallowed because you didn't have the language to explain your pain. The divine gathered them all, not to remind you of what hurt, but to weave strength in the places where your spirit had been stretched thin. You are not being comforted to remain the same. You are being strengthened to rise into the version of yourself that destiny has been shaping quietly in the background of your life. If you listen closely, you can hear something shifting in the back of your mind, as though the unseen is clearing out the last remnants of doubt that once whispered against your identity. The fog that clung to your clarity begins to lift. The heaviness that lived beneath your breath begins to loosen. What you feel now is the divine aligning your internal world with a future that requires your full presence. This is why the discomfort of yesterday felt so sharp. Your spirit was outgrowing its old container, and expansion always feels like stretching before it feels like freedom. You may notice a coolness in the air around you, suddenly giving way to warmth, or a stillness rising in your thoughts without effort. These are not coincidences. They are signs that you are standing in a place where heaven draws near, where the unseen winds begin to shift around your life, where your spirit becomes receptive to guidance it once overlooked. You are being ushered into an atmosphere where clarity descends like a soft rain, where purpose whispers through the spaces between your thoughts, where the divine lays a gentle weight on your chest to remind you that you are not walking alone. And as this presence moves deeper, touching the corners of your heart that you protected out of necessity, brushing against the ache you learned to silence, illuminating the paths you once feared to take, you begin to feel something unfamiliar, yet unmistakably right. A steadiness, a grounding, as though the very center of your spirit is being fortified for what is coming, strengthened for the doors preparing to open, aligned for the abundance forming in the unseen. there is a final quiet settling over your spirit now. A stillness that feels less like an ending and more like a doorway opening in front of you. It gathers around your breath with a steady warmth, the kind that makes your shoulders lower, your mind soften, your heart remember who it has always been beneath the weight of everything you survived. The atmosphere feels almost suspended, as if heaven itself is giving you a moment to recognize the shift that has taken root in your being. Nothing about this stillness is empty. It is charged. It is holy. It is the calm that arrives when your spirit steps into alignment with what was written for you long before you knew how to ask for it. You can sense it, the way your inner world feels wider now, the way clarity sits closer to the front of your thoughts, the way your heart holds more light than ache. The divine has gone into depths you never spoke of, breathed into wounds you never explained, lifted shadows you thought you would carry for the rest of your life. What rests in you now is not the echo of past battles, but the strength formed from them. Every breath you take feels touched by a quiet renewal, as though something sacred is rebuilding the center of your identity with hands made of gentleness and fire. And as this presence lingers, soft, steady, unwavering, your spirit stands taller inside you. You feel the quiet courage rising, the kind that does not shout, but remains firm, as if the unseen has placed an unshakable foundation beneath your feet. You step into this moment not as who you were, but as who you are becoming. Aligned, awakened, ready. The light gathering within you now is not borrowed. It is yours. It has been earned through every night you endured, every moment you refused to disappear, every time you chose hope without evidence. This is the transformation you were built for. So let this final breath be a seal over your spirit, a quiet agreement between you and the divine voice that carried you here. Let your heart answer softly, but with full truth. I rise now. And if this moment has touched you, if this presence has met you in ways words can barely hold, then share this light, so someone standing where you once stood can feel heaven reach for them too. Subscribe, like, and share, not out of habit, but to carry forward the same flame that just awakened something inside you.